Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bottom Line Podcast in a new location, no longer at our respective houses, back at Shippensburg University. JD Razio and Ben. Feels good to kind of be back in person. I like the virtual setup. This feels a bit more right.
Yeah, it's much easier to actually talk face to face instead of one camera into another camera. So it feels good to be able to look you in the face and talk to you versus just looking at your nice little computer screen and your whatever setup is in the background. But
yeah, I can give you a little uppercut, like when you say just something blasphemous.
Yeah, just right to the noggin. Just right to the noggin.
But I mean, it was a crazy weekend in sports, the divisional round, and lots of kickers now on the hot seat. I think that was the main takeaway from the four games. Two of them pretty much impacted by missed kicks.
Yeah, one of the most underappreciated positions every year in football. People talk about, oh, you don't need to pay a kicker. Well, sometimes they matter. And in games like these, you need a good end kicker. And we've seen that even though they never really had to show anything. I think all four of the remaining teams left have a notable kicker. And especially on the AFC side, which is a much more competitive division, Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker are two of the best in the business.
Yep.
So it matters. It really does matter. Kickers are people too.
Kickers are people too. I don't know if Pat McAfee's listening, but if he is, he would like that talk.
Yeah, punters are people too. Kickers are people too. We got
holders, everybody.
We got to show some love for special teams. It takes all three aspects of football to win a game.
But of course, follow us on our TikTok, our Instagram. We're still trying to build those outlets, and we've been in talks with our home location, WSYC. We're working on a solution to cross-platforming from that. So if you enjoyed the radio format, you can listen there, or you can listen here on YouTube. Don't think that'll be ready this week. It might be ready as early as next week, but ultimately, it's just another way you can watch the show. If you don't want to look at our ugly faces, you can listen to the audio-only version on WSYC. So it's good. Less is more. You always want more. I was about to say less is more, but that's not the phrase I was looking for.
And more ways
to watch is better. So
more is more.
More is more indeed. So that's good talk. But we're going to jump right into the football talk. And the first game was between Baltimore and the Houston Texans. This one started off pretty interesting because it looked like Texans were kind of playing the game they wanted. This was a close game through and through, but in the second half, Baltimore just took control. They won 34-10, but at the halftime, it was only 10-10, but the Baltimore Ravens moving to the AFC Championship. This has always been the thing with Lamar Jackson. Can he win the big games? Well, he won a big one on Saturday night.
Yeah, he did. He proved, all the people wrong, including me. I've been kind of a doubter of Lamar Jackson, especially when it comes to what I like to call winning football. I think Lamar is a great quarterback, and he showed that this weekend. But my question for him has always been, can he win the big ones, and can he win it in a solution that's not just with his legs?
Right.
And he's got to make the big throws. When it comes down to games like these, defenses are going to be really good. You're going to have to make big throws, and that's what he did. And this game kind of got off to a rocky start. We talked about with these teams that usually have a first-round bye, they sometimes take a little bit to get going. And by all means necessary, they took a little bit to get going. It took about halfway through the third quarter to really start to see what was going on. I mean, by all stretch, the Texans should have been up at half. They missed a kick at the end of the first half, and which is also comes down to our kicker talk again. But they should have been up at the half, and they played a great first half. And then coming out of the locker room, the Ravens they smoked them. It was a, true Ravens football. They ran the ball. They got everyone involved. Gus Edwards, and even that you saw some Dalvin Cook a little bit there. You saw the other guy. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but they were cycling in backs. Lamar was running the ball a bit, and they got their guys back involved. Zay Flowers had a great game, and OBJ had some clutch catches. I mean, you saw the
Mark Andrews comes back. He's healthy. He's not fully healthy, but he's a little bit of Mark Andrews is still pretty darn good. I mean, he's one of the best tight ends in football.
We thought we were going to get Mark Andrews this game, and he decides to sit out. And now it looks even like a better call because he'll be more healthy for next week, and they're going to need him next week. So going to be a big time game for Baltimore. I think really shows the test of what this team's made of next week against the Chiefs.
And this was really vintage Lamar Jackson. If you look at the passing numbers, only 152 yards, 16 completed passes.
But it doesn't seem like it.
No, it doesn't. And what he did this game is Lamar Jackson really used his rushing ability, especially in the second half. He finished over 100 rushing yards on the nose, combined 4 touchdowns. But the biggest thing, I think, what I took from this performance is no turnovers. They took care of the ball. They just played their brand of football, and they allowed the Texans, as a younger team, to make mistakes with a missed field goal. I mean, credit C.J. Stroud. What a season for the guy.
He had a tough day. Not his fault. Tons of pressure at him the whole game. That D-line kind of got to him.
In the first half, they're kind of just playing more zone man, but in the second half, they just said, we're going to make this kid make some plays. We're just going to send everybody at him. And they couldn't find an answer. Which it's a tough place for first-year quarterback in a playoff atmosphere like Baltimore, those
Yeah.
fans are rowdy.
Yeah.
In a night game, I mean, that's tough. I mean, by all things, this season was a massive success for the Houston Texans.
They are way ahead of schedule. I think what a lot of people are, and Will Anderson said it best in their press conference. They're going to be really good next year, and I think if they can keep their core around, I think the big question is going to be their coordinators. I think Bobby Slowick, their guy, their OC might be up for a head coaching job or potential.
That's what we see though. I think this is the thing that's like with the NFL, when you see these teams on the rise, sometimes it bites them in the butt, because when you see a team on the rise, I think we're going to see this with the Lions as well. I think it's the other big one.
Yeah.
When a team's on the rise, those coordinators are going to get calls from other teams because they want to translate that success. But
the Philadelphia Eagles, that's the perfect example. They went through the same process. You have these teams, it's all about consistent. That's why it's so impressive to see teams that continue their success year by year.
Like the Patriots back in the old days, the Alabama. I mean, how many coordinators have Alabama
even the
lost?
Chiefs of the modern day? We'll talk about the Chiefs. It's just so impressive to see these teams continue their success because they're constantly getting players picked from them and they're getting coordinators picked from them. And those are the two most important things, players and coaches, and they're always getting picked. So props to this Houston team. I'm curious to see where they go from here, but they still have the draft capital. They have tons of salary cap after you know what.
Yep.
It's going to be, the future is very, very bright in Houston. And they weren't even healthy. They were missing Tank Dell. They were missing a couple key pieces of their defense. They're only going to get healthier and they're going to get better and they're going to have more players. So I'm excited to see this Houston team and that whole AFC South division. But
it's shaping up to be one of the most competitive divisions in football next year. I mean, you talk about, I mean, the Jags, they had a late season collapse. They're always going to be a threat.
Yeah.
You have the Texans in there. Who else am I missing?
The Colts on the
Colts,
rise.
that was the other big one I was missing. Titans are probably the fourth worst team in that division, but the Titans are always a tough draw. I mean, you know better than anybody. I hate to remind you, but that Titans team, I know they lost Mike Vrabel, but they're always a tough ask.
They're a competitive team. Yeah. They always kind of shock a couple teams every year. I feel like that's a known thing, and they still have a couple guys on their team that are, formidable guys, and they're going to retool a little bit. So yeah, I'm excited, but Baltimore's here right now. And that was the story.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see if they can translate that success versus Kansas City, which we'll talk about later in the show. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, every matchup's a good one, but that specifically,
right.
That's the matchup. But I'm going to talk about what I thought was the best game out of the four, in my personal opinion. I mean,
probably.
I want to say this: we got an incredible. I mean, it lived up to the hype divisional round. Every game, in its own way, compelled me as a viewer.
Oh yeah,
all four. There wasn't last week in the wild card round. There were a few blowouts.
Bit underwhelming.
But I mean, all four games. I mean, I was dialed in.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sometimes have an issue getting into games when it's not one of my teams. But for this one, I was getting like emotionally invested, especially this one in particular, because I was riding that Green Bay Packers Cinderella run.
I think everyone was.
And I really thought it was going to happen, Ben.
It should have. It should have happened.
I really thought it was going to happen. San Francisco, I mean, you see it on the screen there. I think it's a perfect word. They survive against Green Bay. They win 24-21. And, I mean, this really looked like how the Packers have been playing the past few weeks. Aaron Jones just could not be stopped. Even in this game, he really –
we've been probably Aaron Jones' biggest advocates on this show for weeks now of how much he means to this Packers team, and he did it again. I mean, just so the numbers don't tell the whole story, even though they're stays.
I mean, 18 carries for 108 yards against the best D-line in football.
And they tell the story, but I think even his numbers don't tell the full story. He just means so much. This whole offense runs around them. The play action is such a big part of their offense and what Jordan Love does. And props to Jordan Love, by the way.
Yeah, he had a couple interceptions. I want to throw out the last one completely because that's just a young quarterback making a
first-year starter.
Yep. He had an interception earlier. That probably was not the best read, but I mean, only one interception against it. I'm going to throw out the second one completely, but for the most part, one interception for the majority of the game against that defense. I mean, he put his team in position to win. He did everything that's asked of a starter. So let's just cut to the chase and let's talk about Mr. Carlson. I mean, first of all, I kind of feel for him because
I do 100%.
Because not only missing a kick like that, but how his kind of team responded to it. I heard what Coach LaFleur said, and I've been a big advocate of Matt LaFleur, but the quote he said, I'm praying every time he comes out there, you can't say as a head coach.
No.
I know the kicker's probably the last guy on the totem pole, but as a head coach, your job is to –
especially a rookie guy.
A rookie kicker. That's probably one of the hardest spots to be in an entirety of an NFL roster.
Yeah.
Being a kicker is already hard enough. Being a rookie kicker is even harder, and I can't imagine what his mental state is right now, but I hope this isn't the end for him. I hope he can bounce back from this. I know kickers get like the yips, it's called, more than like anybody else in sports, so I wish him the best, but I mean, these things happen. It's sports, and The Niners, they got. I really want to. I hate the word lucky, but I want to say they got lucky. But man, they really dodged a bullet. Because for the most part, it looked like the Niners of old have just not winning the big game, not winning the big games. In the past years, they just find a new way to come up short. And no one really played necessarily bad.
No.
I just feel like they kind of played down to Green Bay a little bit. Like
Yeah.
Brock Purdy didn't really necessarily play bad. He was just kind of playing as good as he needed to win. I look at the numbers. I mean, 252 for a touchdown. McCaffrey, 98 yards. I mean, everybody got theirs. Obviously, Debo getting hurt. That's a big thing.
Well, that's going to be a huge story next week.
They're not,
whether or not he plays.
At the time we're recording this, he's 50-50. We can talk about that later. But
yeah,
I mean, it's not like I don't want to say the Niners played bad because they didn't, but like no one really shined, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Even on the defensive side, too. I mean, they were just kind of just hanging tight with them for the majority of the game. They just waited for the Green Bay Packers to make a couple more mistakes. They played a slightly cleaner game in Green Bay, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah, I think you see a lot in these. We are seeing the true benefits of becoming the 1 seed. And we saw with both these 1 seeds, they didn't come out the strongest. They kind of started slow. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but you get an easier draw against usually a team that had either a Cinderella run in the first round or a team that is, just not as skilled as a 2 or 3 seed. And that's what's so beneficial about having that 1 seed. You get time to rest up. You're going to be pretty much as healthy as you can possibly be, and you're going to get a good draw against probably a worse team in your house. Win 1 game, and all of a sudden you're right there. You're in the AFC Championship, 1 game away from a Super Bowl, and you get 2 games and a huge bye and 1 game, and that's all you got to do to win a Super Bowl. And that's what the Niners did. It wasn't pretty. They probably could have lost this game, but you know what? Now they're hosting the NFC Championship game, and they're favored. And
at this stage in the season, you don't care how you win, as long as you get the win.
It doesn't got to be pretty.
Because if, let's say, they go on to win next week, they win a Super Bowl, no one's going to remember this Green Bay game.
No one's going to care.
Yeah.
They might remember it, but no one's going to care. All that's going to say is Super Bowl champion across. They're going to have hats and shirts that say Super Bowl champion. And 10 years from now, when there's a banner in their stadium, no one's going to be like, well, they could have lost that 1 game. No one's going to care, and they shouldn't. It's football. It's sports in general. It doesn't got to be pretty. You're in the playoffs. You're here for a reason. Get the job done. And that's what they did.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think the Niners, they're obviously one of the betting favorites. They've been a betting favorite all year because.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. All it takes is 1 bad game. And what if they get hot?
Well, I think that's what makes the football playoffs, the NFL playoffs, so much more compelling because you look at baseball, you look at hockey, you look at the NBA. In those leagues, you can afford to have a bad game. It's usually a best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. In football, it's one and done.
Yep.
One bad game for 60 minutes. Next thing you know, you're on the plane to
Cancun.
Cancun.
In Cancun. Yep. That's where you're going.
So it's compelling. So we'll see what the Niners can do. We'll see if they can keep up this pace against the Lions. Which, oh man, is that the next thing we have on the setup? Oh, it's okay. What a transition!
Perfect.
I mean, look at me go. You see the caption? It's lit in Detroit. The Detroit Buccaneers. Look at me go. The Detroit Lions defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23, which was yet another incredible game. And
the feel-good story of the week.
That's exactly, you pretty much stole the words from my mouth. Before we break down the game, I mean, I'm just so happy for that city of Detroit. They've been kind of riding the high with the Michigan Wolverines and now the Detroit Lions. It's a good time to be a football fan in the state of Michigan right now.
Yeah.
And I think the whole country is pulling for this Lions team to get the job done. I mean, how can you not?
Me included.
How can you not root for Dan Campbell in this squad?
Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, the names go on and on. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, all these guys, even the draft class, Jahmyr Gibbs. These guys were all told that they were drafted too high. They were reaching for these players. But props to this organization for sticking true to their vision and doing their things the right way. And we are seeing the benefits of it. Go Lions. One pride.
Yeah, and I think that I like this Lions team. It's like no matter who they're playing, they just play their brand of football. It's usually it's usually never pretty how they get it done.
No, it doesn't have to be.
But that's what everyone loves about it. I mean, you look back to Dan Campbell's opening press conference. We're gonna bite your kneecap off, and when you knock us down, we're gonna get back up. Like it's literally like a scene right out of Rocky. I mean, that's what
he said that in the meetings.
He's like a character right out of Rocky.
He said in Hard Knocks that he says it doesn't matter. We're great. It doesn't matter where you play us. It doesn't matter when you play us. It doesn't matter how you play us. We're gonna beat you, and it doesn't matter how we do it. That's the style of football that Dan Campbell wants.
He doesn't use the analytics. If he wants to go for it on 4th and 8 on his own 30, I'm not saying that happened in the game, but if he's like, you know what, we're just gonna go for it. Like,
he has full confidence that he's got the guys that can do it, and he knows the type of guys he's got. and he knows that they can get the job done. And like you said, it doesn't matter. He knows his guys better than the analytics say. He doesn't care. That's just what you want out of your coach. He's got full confidence in you. That's gotta make you feel like you're on cloud nine as a player.
100%. And I want to credit the Buccaneers because a lot of people write them off just because they played the Eagles in the opening round. The Eagles fell off a cliff. That was almost a gimme game for them.
Yeah.
They made this a game. They were truly deserving to be in this game, and they gave the Lions a run for their money.
Very much.
And Baker Mayfield, through his entire career, gets doubted over and over and over again. And that what he has done this season is truly inspiring, I feel like. And I think Tampa Bay deserves to give a few more years. I think he's earned that.
Yeah, he's the guy. I think he's underappreciated. Even in his time in Cleveland, we've seen it. He's a playoff quarterback. When he makes the playoffs, he plays at a high level. No
one had the Buccaneers making it to divisional round, I think, preseason.
No, well, I mean, you take it back to week 18. They had a win and in situation where they won their game and they were in. They won 9-0 against the Carolina Panthers in an ugly game. We talked about that game, about as ugly as it possibly can get. And people were like, "Oh man, this team's making the playoffs." Next thing you know, they go to play Philly. Now, granted, you can say what you want about Philly, but that's a defending NFC champion. You know, that's a formidable opponent who's on a cold stretch, looking to get hot again. They took care of business pretty handedly, and then they go into Detroit, who's also a hot team, and give them. I mean, they gave them the kitchen sink. I mean, like you said, they gave them everything they could have asked for.
I mean, look at these stats.
Didn't happen.
After the third quarter, 3-3. After second quarter, 10-10. After the third quarter, 17-17. They were literally going blow for blow until the very end, where they couldn't make up a drive in the last 2 minutes.
Exactly.
They were right there with Detroit neck and neck the whole time. And if a couple of those plays go their way, Tampa Bay is going to the NFC Championship. So I mean, and again, an incredible season for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I looked at their free agency situation, not the prettiest. Lots of upcoming free agents, but I still think they have a pretty good. Now, I want to say future. They have a lot of aging guys. This is kind of like we said a few times, kind of the tail end of what was left of that Brady team.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at guys like Mike Evans who just never get the spotlight. Like guys like him, he's just Mr. Reliable over and over again. Consistency. And that's what you want in this league. That's what we have. But credit the Lions, credit Jared Goff, who is slowly and quietly starting to build a resume for himself. Everyone kind of viewed him as a number one pick. Oh, not really living up to the hype. But here's a guy who made it to Super Bowl with the Rams, goes to a new team, completely new system, and is leading to success. And he's one game away from making it to another Super Bowl with another franchise. It's hard enough to make it to one Super Bowl.
To make it with two franchises.
To make it to a second Super Bowl with a second franchise. I mean, that's crazy. Not a lot of people have done that. No. I know Brady's done it. I know Peyton Manning's done it. I mean, look at the rest of people have done it. There's
probably less than 20 guys. There's probably less than 10 guys that have done that. It's not a common thing. It's train sometimes success.
I'm trying. Jared Goff deserves his respect.
He does.
He gets so much disrespect.
I'll say this: he's a franchise quarterback. Put that on the air. He is a franchise quarterback. He should be the Lions quarterback until he proves he should be.
Hey, this is the first time we can do a live shake on camera. I
Jared Goff's the guy. He's the guy. He's a good leader. Everyone in the locker room respects him. He listens to coach. He's
coachable. You see so many of these top quarterbacks who just egotistical. Jared Goff, I love what Dan Campbell said. I got to censor myself, but he said, "You're good enough for effing Detroit." Because I know how things ended in Los Angeles where they didn't think he was good enough. And granted, it worked for the Rams. They got what they did, but here comes Jared Goff to a team who had the last pick in the draft, and a few years later, he's leading them to an NFC championship. I think it's an incredible story, and they just have a great core round. I mean, you talk about the names: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs,
Sam Laporta.
You saw Montgomery. I mean,
you saw production from every guy on the team, and I said this is the style of football that they want to play. They don't care if it's this guy, if it's that guy, if it's him, it's her, it's anyone. They'll get the job done. They'll play for 60 minutes of football, and they're going to have about 25 guys that can win them football games. And that is what makes this team so fun to watch and what makes everyone want to rally around them.
I love it. And then we had one last game, and I mean, this is just turning into hit the mic there. This is turning into just an incredible rivalry, but I don't even know if we can call this a rivalry. I mean,
it's been one-sided.
It's been a one-sided rivalry. It's the Chiefs and the Bills, and you see the title there. I mean, that's just kind of a summary of the Bills organization as a whole. Those two words, I think they have haunt their fans. The Chiefs defeat the Bills once again, 27-24. And Ben, I'm not gonna lie, I predicted them. I really thought this year was gonna be different for the Bills.
I told you I thought it wasn't.
They finally got home field advantage. All the signs were pointing that they were on the rise. They were hot. The Chiefs, they looked different this year, and for the majority of the game, things were looking good for them. But then the Chiefs start to pull away. The Buffalo has a chance to drive.
Playoff Pat.
To settle for a field goal. They missed the field goal. But before I talk about the missed field goal, even if he makes that, Patrick Mahomes had like 2 minutes left with 2 timeouts. If I can't look at you a straight face and say that Patrick Mahomes likely does not at least lead them to a field goal attempt with 2 minutes left and 2 timeouts. I mean, they showed a graphic. Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round, and this has stayed true after this game. Never lost in a divisional round, and has never had a turnover, not an interception, not a fumble, ever in the divisional round. I mean, it's
unbelievable.
He might already be the number 2 in terms of greatest players of all time.
I know we get caught up a lot, and I know this is a common thing that people get caught up, and they hate when announcers will kind of, I don't know what the correct wording is, but they kind of, show favoritism to these quarterbacks of high level.
Tony Romo loves him. Good Patrick Mahomes.
Good example. It's a good example, and especially with Josh Allen, people say that about Tony Romo and Josh Allen, and I get the argument, but a guy like Patrick Mahomes deserves every single thing we say about him, because we have never seen the start of a career as we have with this Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs run. I mean, this is unheard of territory. This is not even Tom Brady territory. This is unheard of territory. I mean, he is unbelievable what we've seen. I mean, he is never been outside of the AFC Championship in his career. Okay, he's had 6 seasons now, and they've had 6 straight AFC Championships, or it's 5 or 6. It's one of those 2 numbers. He's never not made the AFC Championship, and he's made the Super Bowl, I believe, 3 of those years. Yes,
3, 2, and 1. Yep.
So he's three of those years he's made the Super Bowl as well, and he's won 2 MVPs in that span. I mean, unbelievable stuff we're talking about here. And once again, this team was counted out all year. People were saying, even me included, we've been sitting here for weeks saying, oh man, the Chiefs, something looks different about this team. But we kept saying, you never know. Sure enough, you never know. Here come the Chiefs out of left field.
But here's the thing about it. It's not even the same Chiefs that passed. They're finding new ways. They're evolving.
Yeah.
This game, it was ground and pound, and that opened up the play action for Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't.
And we finally saw a Travis Kelce game.
He comes out. Taylor was in the stands. But hey, you know who else was in the stands?
Oh.
Jason Kelce.
It is. New heights.
New heights. The shirt was off. He was letting the Buffalo Bills fans hear it. But like I was talking about Patrick Mahomes, he's evolved with this team.
Yeah.
When he first entered the league, he had Tyreek Hill, and that was like
the high. What's so impressive?
That was the high flying offense. Now they've evolved. Kelsey's aging, and receivers, it's not the talent he once had. So he kind of turned to a run game, but Patrick Mahomes still finds a way to extend plays. It's different what he's asked of, but he still finds a way to do what he's asked of to the best of his ability.
And that's what he does.
He's evolved with this team, and it's impressive. You see a lot of guys where it has to be one system, their way or the highway.
Yep.
He was asked of different things this year, and he's learned that throughout the year that he needs to put.
He's adjusting. He I think at first he was a bit stubborn to it, and he wanted to be the old Chiefs. He wanted to be the high flying offense. He wanted to be I'm going to throw it up the seam to Travis Kelce, and occasionally I'm going to hit the outside. We even saw it last year. He got away with it. He was able to get other guys involved, and you saw that. They didn't do the same thing this year. It wasn't happening. It wasn't working.
He's like, all right, I'm just going to keep taking these 15, 20-yard passes, and we'll do it
the different way. And now he's learning. And now this Chiefs team, they have a system, and they're hot. And like we said it last week, they can beat anyone in this league. This team could win the Super Bowl, and I would not be surprised. That's how good they are. They are the Chiefs.
And this defense is probably the best Chiefs defense we've seen.
Yeah, we talked about that too. I mean, this is a good Chiefs defense, and it's crazy too because they're the youngest defense in the NFL. They have an average age of less than 25 on
Chris Jones is really the only veteran presence that comes to mind.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Their average, it's all first and second year guys getting the job done behind a really good defensive coordinator. Credit Steve Spagnuolo, great defensive coordinator, and Andy Reid, who continues to just lead this bunch, kind of stays under the radar a little bit. I feel like we don't talk about Andy Reid enough. He kind of stays out of the limelight, and
he just lets his guys ball.
Chiefs are in another AFC championship, and it's going to be, I mean, this is going to be a tough game for them, but I have full confidence in them.
And even if they lose this, I mean, let's look at the Chiefs. They lose Tyreek Hill. Oh no, they're done. Oh,
this is unbelievable.
They don't have Bieniemy anymore. Oh, Andy Reid's going to crumble. And they find a way once again with Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's off the quarter. They find a way. Now let's talk about the other flip of the coin for the Bills, which I think this is the most devastating loss in the Josh Allen era for sure, because where do you go from here? What changes do you make? Does Sean McDermott get canned? Does he not? Like,
something's got to give.
It's an aging team. You look at the Chiefs; they're able to evolve. The Bills have kind of been hanging on to that same style football they've been trying to play. I mean, obviously, you still have to keep Josh Allen and build around him.
Well, his cap hit goes up now.
I mean, but they can't get rid of Josh Allen.
Yeah, his cap hit, I saw the number. It goes up from 18 million to 54 million this next year.
And like Stephon Diggs, he's really just completely fallen off the face of the earth from the second half
He
of the
probably
year.
goes.
I think he goes. There's been a lot of drama building there. Some people saying Dallas, perhaps, so he can team up with his brother, maybe
Something could be there.
something. But I mean, you look at the Bills in terms of it's an aging defense.
You might have to hit the rebuild.
You might hit the rebuild. You might. I mean, the only young really piece I can think of is Dalton Kincaid.
James Cook.
James Cook. He had a good year. We'll give props to James
Great
Cook.
year.
Good call. And I saw people. I mean, they tried the fake punt with DeMar Hamlin. I mean, that got a lot of attention online for obvious reasons. I mean, that was an interesting play call. I'll leave it
With
at
the
that.
game on the line, yeah, I don't know about that one.
I mean, it looked like they were trying to go for like the Hollywood headline.
Oh, that would have been his comeback player of the year odds would have skyrocketed.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that one.
and then obviously Tyler. That leads us to Tyler Bass, who has been really just feeling the
He
heat.
gets a bad rap.
He gets a bad rap, but I will give Bills fans credit for how much they've been through with missed kickers in the recent days. They have been supporting his charity.
Okay.
So I'll credit Bills fans for that. But I mean, this is just. I mean, you're a Clippers fan. This is almost Clippers-esque in terms of how
This is Dolphins-esque. I mean, I've been here before.
I mean,
It's
you had the
tough scenes.
You had the 4 falls in Buffalo. You had the missed field goal in the one Super Bowl, and now you're 0-3. What's supposed to be your greatest rival in the NFL today, in the Chiefs, where they just completely own you.
I think they thought they had this one too. I think Buffalo fans were really confident this was their year. They were going to make a run to the AFC Champ and see what happens.
I mean, yeah, they had home field. I mean, they had the fans shovel in the snow. I mean, it just felt like the stage was set for them to finally pull through, and they did it. And
playoff Pat ruins it all.
And playoff Pat ruins it all. And I kind of agree with you, Ben, where I think they're at a spot now where the Bills just might have to blow it up. I mean,
well, what do you do? I mean, you can't get much better because, like I said, the money is not there. Or Mahomes, Josh Allen's cap goes up. They're gonna have to pay other people. You know, Stephon Diggs, if he's staying, is gonna want a new contract. That's obvious. If he is staying, which I don't think he will. What happens with McDermott? Who knows? Joe Brady's getting looked at for other offensive coordinator jobs, so they're gonna have to. It's a mess. It's a mess. There's no other way to put it. It's a mess.
It's not good. It's an ugly situation. I mean, I've liked Sean McDermott. I think he's a great head coach, but I mean, someone has to take the fall for this, and usually
the coach that gets it.
It's the coach that takes the fall. That's usually how this goes, and that's just the league we live in.
Hey, we've seen it. I saw a stat yesterday that we might talk about this later in the show too with our other head coaching hires, but since the start of last season, since the start of the 2022 season, I guess that would be. There is not now with the Titans hiring Bryce Callahan or whatever that guy's name is.
We can just transition. I'll have a graphic for this. We can just talk about the coaches now if you want.
That's sure. Yeah. I was going to say there has not been a single offensive coordinator that has stayed the same the past 2 seasons between all 32 teams.
Wow, that's actually I did not see that. So that's pretty. That's
every single crazy. Team has switched their offensive coordinator within the last 2 seasons. By the end of it, and
that's actually pretty.
That tells the story of this is how quickly these things change. I mean, even the best offenses in the league, staple offenses, the offenses that we have seen for years now that have been good, they change, and that's the league we're in.
Yep, it's the league we're in. So let's talk about some coaching changes. I'll start with real quick. My Eagles, they've officially blown it up, which is good. Patricia's gone, Desai's gone, and Brian Johnson, he was just released today.
Now Sirianni stays.
And I'm okay with that. I think it's too.
We talked about this.
We talked about last week. I'll keep it brief. I'll keep the Eagles talk to it brief, but I mean, he's been overall very successful. He's still very young into his coaching career. He made the Super Bowl last year. Yep. Made the playoffs all 3 years. Give him our shot as a new coordinator, see what he does. If things don't work out next year, that's when the eyebrows might start being batted.
Oh, yeah.
And then elsewhere around the league, there hasn't really been any more hires since the last episode, but
I think we're leaning towards, I think with the 2 that we predicted are kind of the signs are starting to show a little bit. I think Belichick to Atlanta and Harbaugh to LA is kind of inevitable. It's just a matter of when. They
both had second interviews for both franchises. Harbaugh's had 2 interviews in Atlanta as well, so I guess that's also a possibility, but I think Charger just make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And then for other head coaching vacancies, you have the Panthers, which I haven't even really heard any rumors about them because, quite frankly, I'm not really sure they're going to be able to get anybody that really wants that job all that much. Commanders, not really a lot going on there. I think they're going after.
Well, they just hired their GM, so he's probably going to be a part of that. And that's the big one for me this week was also Antonio Pierce is now the official full-time head coach of the Vegas Raiders. I
think we got to do our shake for that.
So glad they got this right. You can't mess this one up. I said this to my dad the other day. I think Raiders fans and NFL fans as a whole, even if this doesn't pan out and he ends up being a terrible coach, no one's going to be mad. No one's
No.
going to blame them. You had to. You had it happen last time where you had Rich Picasia and he looked like a great coach, and you let him slip away, and the players wanted him to stay, and they went a different direction. The players love Antonio Pierce. Keep him around, see what he's got. Let him get a new quarterback and a team around him. See what happens.
And this draft class is a good draft class to do it, to get a
It's the
quarterback.
best draft class to do it in. There's about 5 or 6 guys.
I mean, Caleb Williams, Jay McDaniels,
Drake
Penix,
Penix, Michael Penix.
I mean, McCarthy late.
JJ McCarthy. You have even guys like
But I
Bo
mean,
Nix.
But you want a guy like McCarthy, he's the fifth best quarterback on the board. In years past, he'd probably be a top 3 guy. I mean, this is if you're a team looking for a franchise quarterback, this is your chance to
There's
draft a
some
guy.
late round steals too. There's a lot of guys in the late rounds that people aren't putting enough emphasis on. This is a loaded draft class. It's a loaded quarterback class.
So
Go get a guy.
Yeah, it's a good guy. And so we're moving a lot of news on head coaching vacancies. But hey, once I'm sure by next week, I'm sure the pieces
we'll have some. I'm curious to see. I think the Atlanta job and the LA job are pretty much locked up. The jobs I think everyone is curious about. I mean, we could talk about the Titans hiring Callahan. I know that just came out today. I think that's a weird move. I think you kind of, it doesn't make sense to me because you move on from Vrabel, who's this great guy, and I don't hate Callahan, but he's not like the biggest bright young star offensive coordinator. He's a reliable guy. He coached. He's been the Bengals guy. He did a lot of work with Joe Burrow, but you could have had better. You just
I think you had better. I think you had better with Vrabel originally.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you maybe could use a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
but I think Vrabel was a good guy, and I'm really curious. I mean, you look at the jobs that are left, and you'd think Vrabel is going to be head coach somewhere, but now it's shaping up to be he may be more of a DC because I haven't really even heard of him getting any interviews yet.
There's been talks. I know people are looking at the Seattle job.
That might work because Pete Carroll was a defensive level guy.
Yep.
Vrabel's very defensive. That could be a good
There's
fit.
been talks about that. There's another team I'm thinking of off the top of my head that people are tying him to, but I mean the openings are there. I don't know exactly where he goes from here. I'm curious. People are also talking about Pete Carroll taking a job somewhere. We're not sure what's going on there.
He's said he was staying as an advisor, but if that guy gets a head coach offer, he's leaving. That guy is he's just a head coach at heart. I think it's more just he's an advisor just in case he doesn't get the job he's looking for. He has that as a get out of jail free card. But if he gets a job hire, I think he's taking that in a heartbeat. But yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of coaching news. We're just kind of waiting for the pieces to drop. Usually, once teams start getting eliminated, like once we have like the 2 clear Super Bowl teams, it's usually when we start seeing a lot more interviews and stuff. So I think by next week we're gonna have a better clue. And the Bears, we still don't know what they're doing yet either with Justin Fields or not. I think
probably won't.
And right now, just from what I've been seeing, it looks like they're leaning toward drafting Caleb Williams, which I think is a mistake personally, but. Who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows? They were talking
I'm excited to see I'm excited for the offseason. I'm excited for that first big bombshell. Whatever it is, whether it's a trade,
bomb.
Yeah, just some big either trade, signing. Just I'm excited for that first, bombshell because it always happens. Every year it always happens.
And I saw another quick headline. I forgot we got to put it in our headline script, but the Cowboys, lots of people with like family members of like CeeDee Lamb people were bashing Dak Prescott. I think it was like Micah Parsons' parents, CeeDee Lamb's parents, Dak Prescott getting some rough news. Did we talk about McCarthy staying last week?
I don't think we did.
That was another big news with Mike McCarthy staying. What did you think about that? I was a little surprised by that one.
I think a lot of times we get caught up in blaming coaches for stuff, and we blame, I think sometimes we finger point and sometimes it's not necessary. And I think it's sometimes you just played a bad game. You didn't execute. And obviously there's times to change, but I think this team needs another shot at it. I think if you're a bit healthier and if you plan a little bit better, they get something goes different there. I think they didn't show up right away and they kind of got hit in the mouth early. And you even saw it in the late half of that game. They started to play their football more. They can't come out slow in those games. And in a playoff game, you have to play consistent football.
And I looked historically, Dallas rarely fires head coaches. They usually let their coaches finish out their contract.
Yeah,
McCarthy only had 1 more year on his contract anyway, so
let him finish out.
Let him finish it out. I don't think you're going to get anyone significantly better given your options. So
probably not. No,
I mean, I think you got 1 more shot. If it doesn't work again next year, I think we're really going to start seeing some major changes in Dallas. But those are all the main coaching headlines. We're going to talk about the NBA. Yeah, for the NBA, really briefly, I have obviously I had to put the Sixers graphic to kind of summarize all this.
Yeah,
I had to keep my bias there because Joel Embiid, baby, set a franchise record in points last night with a 70-piece McNugget on Victor Wembanyama. Just humble that guy just a little bit. I mean, if he can stay healthy, he's ramping up for maybe another MVP campaign. We'll see if he plays enough games, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, this has been the Sixers. They've been dominant in the regular season. It's just been, can they translate that to postseason success? And that second round has just haunted them.
Yeah.
Ever since they've exited the process era. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, this was a great moment. Obviously, I got to watch this live. Pretty magical stuff. But I mean, we'll see what happens comes playoffs, because that's when you make or break in the NBA.
Yeah, I loved the whole story with this. I love the pregame. Everyone kind of knew this might have been a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah,
they had the press conference.
Yeah, Coach Pop said he was.
And they said they were going to come at him a little bit, and they were going to be aggressive. And I will say, props to Wembanyama. I know he got 70 on him, but he did have a good game himself.
He did.
And he responded a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, it's a tough matchup.
For a young guy, he never really shows visible flusterness. He's very
composed.
For
an 18-year-old.
Yeah, very composed and under pressure, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy, so I mean, it's a tough draw. You know, you poke the bear. Your coach pokes the bear at the reigning MVP, and he kind of got the backlash of it. And I like Wembanyama, but he's not necessarily built to guard a guy like Embiid. It's just not his style.
He doesn't have the muscle.
No, he's not going to guard a big, strong guy down low. It's not that it's weird, but he's almost built to guard more of the forwards,
yep.
The smaller forwards, and that's fine. I mean, that's you use him where he's best at. But yeah, tough game.
Kind of like a Porzingis in a way. When he started his career, he was a four guy until he built that muscle.
Right. Good point. Yeah. And it could be done. He could build muscle. Who knows? But yeah, props to Joel Embiid. Lots of free throws shot. That's
his game.
That's usually what you see at these high scoring games. We saw it all the time back in the day with a guy like James Harden. Just lots of free throws. So,
and let's talk about the other center who had just an amazing performance, but didn't get the result. Karl Anthony Towns, who dropped 62 and loses. And you see what happened post game? There's a little bit of drama with the head coach. He benches Cat in the final 2 minutes because he was upset that his team was not running the offense. They were just trying to feed Cat, and they weren't really playing as a team. And he called out pretty much his whole team in the post game press conference. He was not happy, so he benched Cat for the final 2 minutes with 62 points. I mean, talk about you have Embiid with 70, and then you have Cat with 62. You're like, I mean, he's got to be feeling a certain way when he checked his phone after that loss.
Yeah, I mean. Respect to the coach for having the goal to stick up to your team like that.
I stand with what he said. I mean,
to have the audacity, I mean, in a good way, to stick up to your star player, arguably the guy on your team, maybe probably the second best player on your team, but still a superstar player. Karl Anthony Towns is a notable guy in this league. To stick up to him when he's dropping 60 points in a game and say, listen, you're sitting on the bench. We've got to win a game here. I don't care about your points. I care about the win at the end of the stat sheet. To have that shows a lot about a coach. And I think after the dust settles, that's a type of learning experience that makes your coach that gets the guys in your locker room a bit excited. I think the team will reap the benefits of a moment like this.
I'm surprised you went that way. I never
months, I think weeks or months down the line when they're in a playoff series or something, they're going to look back on that moment and be like, okay, this guy's got our back. All he cares about is winning.
I didn't view it that way. I was just kind of viewing the glass half empty on that one. That's a cool way to look at it. So I like your perspective. Hopefully that pans out for them. And the shocker, this came out just today. By the way, usually we have terrible luck with when we record this, because ever since we started doing this virtually, literally after we hit record, some breaking news drops literally every week on cue. So we're recording this. Hold on, I'm going to do this right. We're recording this Tuesday at 6 p.m. So just so you know, in case there's some massive news tomorrow, that's why we don't know. But we did get lucky. There was some major news just dropped today with the Bucks firing their head coach when they're second in the Eastern Conference.
30-13.
30-13. I mean, that was just an absolute shocker. I think there's got to be something that we don't know yet that happened behind the scenes.
You hope so. You really hope so.
Because you just don't fire a coach when they're having that much success. I mean, that's just you can't really make any argument for that. I can't think of a single argument in my head as to why you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, every statistical thing would show that the Bucks have been one of the best teams. I mean, they're second in the league in offense, and defensive wise, I believe they're top 10 as well. They've been a good team. They've only gotten better. The Dame Lillard thing has been pretty good for the most part.
They're starting to build that chemistry now.
They're starting to get it going, and we knew it wouldn't be. You always see with these star players, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows right away. And we're seeing that with my own Clippers. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at first, but once you start to get the system going, you learn what works for your team, and it's working. And if you get the right guys, if you get the right type of guys, it'll figure itself out. You'll find a way to make it work. I just don't understand that. Like you said, you almost hope there's something else going on there because it just seems off. I mean,
and now the favorite to be the head coach, obviously we don't know who they've hired yet, but obviously this is an in-season firing, so they're gonna have to get the ball moving because they need to figure this out quick. I mean, they don't have time. I think by the next day or two, they have to have their new head coach found. Right now, the favorite's Doc Rivers, who's currently an ESPN analyst, and as a former Sixers fan, I mean, I think Doc Rivers kind of gets a bad rap in this league. I mean, sure, he's had a few playoff chokes. I think we can both attest to that, but I mean, I think overall he's a good head coach.
yeah.
But it's an interesting way to go to fire your guy. Now it looks like Doc Rivers might be the guy. Or maybe they'll stay in house. Who knows?
Yeah, I think right now there's like an interim guy. I don't expect that to be the long-term solution. What I'm seeing is he is the it looks like he's going to be the odds to be the guy. I think they're saying he's actually pretty high odds. I don't know who else.
Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I don't know who else is really out there. It's kind
It's
of
in season. It's a bizarre situation.
It's a tough situation. And
usually you see in season firings with bottom of the barrel teams just take an interim head coach on the staff to get him to the rest of the way. This is completely different. This is an NBA Finals contender.
Yeah.
So it's you rarely. I can't think of the last time we've seen something like this. It's a really unique situation.
Yeah, I mean it's a unique situation, and I got a feel for the guy coaching, who the guy who got fired, because what else could he have done? I mean, you're second in the Eastern Conference. You're
implying
tied.
If someone didn't have him behind the scenes, he's just being like
Right.
Yeah,
you're tied for the second best record in the league. I mean, you're at the tippy top. I mean, you're coaching a good team, and it just didn't work out. I don't know. I want to see more come out. I'm curious.
I'm sure more will come out by next week's show, but. And with that, we only have one more thing left to do. With the NFL wind down, with us perhaps switching to WSYC, we were running hour-and-a-half episodes, and I mean it's a lot. There's so much stuff to talk about. We're gonna try to get things down, maybe about to an hour. Of course, we're gonna have more content coming out on our Instagram and
our schedules are so packed.
Yeah, we're back. We're back in the classroom. We have a few classes together, so I'm looking forward to that. But we still want to keep doing this. We both enjoy doing this. This is fun. It's almost therapeutic in a way. Just relax, forget about everything, just talk about sports for now.
Turn on a camera and talk some sports.
I mean, right now we're in the library right now, and we did this like super last minute. We just took a rammer in the library. We have our coats underneath the door to block the sound. This is a low budget operation. Always has been, always will be.
Yep.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's awesome. How you do it. Until the world permits us to do it any other way, we're going to keep doing it our way.
So with that, we're down to 4 teams, 2 games. And I have a inkling that we might be going the same way. We'll see. We stopped telling each other our picks. We think it's a bit more fun to react live. You want to go NFC or AFC first?
Let's go NFC. I think that's the more probably obvious one.
Yeah, NFC. So you got Lions against 49ers. San Francisco, a 7-point favorite. Biggest spread of the week. There's only 2 games to go by. But, I mean, based on what we saw against Green Bay, I mean, that was only 7, but I feel like that was a tiny bit high. I think the Lions, I want to see closer to like 3 to 4.
4.5.
Yeah.
I think 4.5 is a good spread. I think 7's crazy.
But Lions versus 49ers. Come on, Ben, give it to me. Tell me the Cinderella story will continue one more week. Come on.
I really wish it would. I just don't think it will. I don't know. Just something seems like in these type of games, you always see the 1 seed play a bad game at first, and then it takes them a game to watch them film, look back at what they did, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is the 49ers. Next thing you know, they blow them out the water. The big one's going to be whether or not Debo plays. I think that plays a lot into what people don't realize how important he is for that offense. If Debo plays, of course, I'm picking the Niners. I think if Debo doesn't play, it makes it a little interesting. But give me the Niners by a closer margin than the spread. But yeah, give me the Niners. I think the Lions are going to give them the kitchen sink. That's what they always do.
Yep, I don't expect
it's not going to be a blowout.
I don't think either of these games will be blowouts.
No, but I just don't think. I don't know if the Lions will have enough. I hope they do. I really hope they do. But yeah, give me the Niners.
Niners, yeah, I have to concur. I'm gonna have my imaginary Lions jersey on.
I will be cheering them on. I don't know when this game is.
It's Sunday at 6:30. So
I will be in my couch watching this game.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be on the couch together.
Maybe.
You never know. You never know. We're back now. We're back, baby.
We're back. We're back in the old ways.
But I'm picking the Niners as well. Obviously you want to pick the Lions, but just this Niners team when they're playing at their best, there's no other better team in football in my opinion. Interesting to see what Brock Purdy can do because he did not get to really play in this moment.
Contrary to the other conference, because I think we know what we're going to get out of both, probably Lamar and Mahomes.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what we get out of these 2 quarterbacks. I think that's going to be probably the story of this game. Whoever plays better at quarterback probably is going to win the game in that Lions-Niners game. So that's actually, I didn't think about that story.
Yeah, because Brock Purdy, I mean, he got injured pretty early in that against the Eagles last year. So he's really never experienced this moment before.
No.
And so we're going to see how it is. I mean, in the divisional round, he didn't look like the moment was too big for him, but he didn't necessarily have the biggest light shine on him in the moment either. He kind of just laid low and did what he had to do. I think if the Lions play how they did, I'll say this: if the Lions play how they did last week, I'm going to take the Lions.
I agree. If both teams played the way they did last week, the Lions will win this game. I just don't know if that'll happen.
No, I think the 49ers will clean it up. Give me the Niners, but I think it's going to be close. It's going to be close. And the other one, Chiefs and Ravens.
I'm curious on your opinion on this.
Yeah, I'm curious on yours as well. Baltimore, 3.5-point favorite at home. I guess you went first, so I'll go first for this one. I don't know if it's the logo conspiracy. I don't know if it's just the fan in me. Yeah. But I really, really think this Ravens team's going to get the job done. I think. Wow, okay. I think I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. They play their brand of football. Lamar Jackson, he's having another career year, and now he's finally starting to build a supporting cast that he really likes. Dave Flowers, Odell Beckham. This defense is always crazy. I don't think for any of these games, missed kicks are going to be a factor. All these kickers that are left now are pretty well. Actually, on the AFC side, on the NFC side, you have Jake Moody, a rookie. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm blanking on the Lions kicker off the top of my head.
It was Riley Patterson, but I don't know if it still is. Let me look. Yeah, I guess it still is Riley Patterson. It could also be Michael Badgley.
We don't know.
We'll see.
Hey, we do this live. We may know a lot. We don't know every last mission, but regardless, on the AFC side, both these kickers. I mean, you talk about the start of the show, Harrison Butker and Justin Tucker, two of the best guys in the league. But I'm just going on a tangent. I'm going to take the Ravens. I think it's going to be a really close game. It might just come down to who has the ball last. But I really want Lamar Jackson to win a big one, but it's so hard to pick against Mahomes. But I'm going to do it for the second week in a row. Maybe I didn't learn my lesson, Ben, but I'm going to take the Ravens to advance against the 49ers. The Logan conspiracy is going to stay for one more year.
I can't do it.
I knew you were going to go that way.
I can't do it, man. I regret doing it in the first place.
Is it because the Chiefs beat the Dolphins, so you kind of want this as like a contingency prize that the team that knocked you out? Okay.
That does make you feel good as a team.
It does.
But no, I told you, man. I've done it before, and now I regret it. Now I see the light. I see the light. Man, I can't do it, man. I can't pick against this Chiefs team. It's death, taxes, and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's guaranteed. It's really just guaranteed. I mean, this Ravens team does feel different, but it's the Chiefs, man. It's, I feel like we always would see this every year with the Patriots dynasties. You always see some team up and coming. You're like, man, this is their year. They've got what it takes to beat the Patriots. Then you're reminded very quickly, it's still the Patriots. The same. I mean, I use the same exact story. It's still the Chiefs. This is the Chiefs. We've seen this before. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. Give me playoff Pat and one more heroic performance from this team. Give me the Chiefs.
You got Chiefs Niners. I got Ravens Niners. We'll have to see what happens there. I'll tell you what, though. Any potential outcome here, I'm going to be happy with.
Either way, both of us are predicting a former Super Bowl within recently, because Chiefs Niners was just a few years ago, with the classic.
And then Ravens Niners was the Harbaugh Bowl and the blackout. Yeah, it's interesting.
So both these teams have been here before. I mean,
different personnel.
Three of these four teams have been here very commonly, and then the Lions are kind of the odd man out. They haven't been here in a long time. So
I like it.
I'm excited to see these games.
And I just remember on top of that, Zach Ertz is officially aligned.
So that's interesting. I mean, I know it's Zach, but that's especially with the injuries to Sam Laporta, he's
Zach
still
Ertz,
playing,
and Zach Ertz knows what it's like to play in these games.
And his tight ends coach in Philly is the current or it was either in Philly or Arizona. One of his former tight ends coach is the Lions tight ends coach.
So, oh, really? I don't know that.
He will transition very quickly. The relationship's there. I'm not saying he's gonna be 100 yards or anything, but we saw even with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had an impact, and he probably will have an even more impact this week. The more and more you get these guys time to get into their system. Zach Ertz could also be a Super Bowl play. If they somehow win that game on Sunday, I think Zach Ertz will be a player in this. He'll be an important factor in that Super Bowl team. So
yeah,
it matters. I know, it's a what if type of thing, but it's Zach Ertz. He's a great player.
Yeah,
you know that better than anyone.
I sure do. Big part of that Philly special. Good times. But that's gonna do it for this episode. It feels good I like this in person. Feels
I
more
do
lively.
I do.
Yeah, bounce off each other a bit better. I kind of felt like we're back in the age of COVID. like on a Zoom call.
Oh yeah.
So this is good. We
I like both. I like both for their own reasons, but this is fun.
Yeah, no, this is a good time. So we hope you guys enjoyed. Again, follow us on here on YouTube, of course, and on TikTok, Instagram, all it is. Also, if you like we'll see how this goes, but maybe the short episodes are a bit more of a vibe. I kind of like it.
We'll see. I think for off season, there's going to be a lot I
Yeah.
want to talk about. I love the off season, especially draft. I'm here soon. I'm going to start getting my draft prep. I don't know.
This guy does mocks. I'm not that hardcore. Maybe I'll make my own mock just for you.
Yeah,
We'll see. I'm
hey,
not.
I will bring our draft content for us.
You'll be a lot more knowledgeable than I am, but I know a thing or two.
So yeah, I'm gonna start watching some tape on some guys, get the prospect boards, a couple of them filled out. So we'll see.
Oh, and a quick plug: if you want more of me and Ben, we're gonna be calling the Ship game this Saturday. So if you're watching this before this upcoming Saturday, if you want to hear us on the call, we'll be on the call on SUTV. So that'll be
you can
fun.
put a link in the description, maybe.
Yeah, I'll throw a link of where the call will be. So that's just another thing. We do it all, baby. We do it all.
Hey, we're just here having some fun, man.
But that's going to do it for the bottom line. He's Ben Woolley. I'm Jay DeRazio. We'll catch you same time next week, Wednesdays at 6. Until then, take it easy. Enjoy your championship level games. And we're going to find out who's headed to the Super Bowl when we're back here next week.
That's crazy.
All right. We'll catch you soon, guys. Have a good one.